Hello everyone, this is Shadow Dragon from the DCUO community, and we're back with another episode of DC Universe Online. So, in this episode we're going to look at Game Update 86, and I normally don't do videos for these, but this one came as a bit of a surprise. Like, we knew some of the things going into it, but this update actually has a whole lot of significant things, and a lot of them are game changers. So the big thing that was promoted was the next phase of style unlocking. So we knew that going in, and we expect that being like the next step in whatever DLCs and other items. So the list included let's see, past items from vault styles. I kind of thought those were included before, but maybe I just forgot about them because they're not like super rare. But maybe that means like the second wave, like the checkmate and the two knight sets. Maybe the movement mode styles, because each of those items does have a style to it. Let's see, Promethean Lockbox New 52 styles. That's kind of one I also forgot about, because if you were around when those first came out, they actually became so common that they were junk loot. So yeah, that's something I never saw on the menus on most of my characters anyway. And the big one is dropped armor and weapon styles. That's the one we've all been waiting for, because those included some of the best styles. So I'm logged on to Alyssa here, and I'm in Shadow Dragon's base, so I could show off two of the examples. So the one I've been waiting for was Ancient Divine Sorceress from the villain side to unlock on my heroes, and Alyssa is sporting the cape here. So this is the Circe inspired style from Amazon Fury 2. It's the raid drop. And the entire set actually looks good, but for this set I only took the cape. And on the flip side, villains can take Ancient Amazon Noble. That was the hero equivalent, Wonder Woman inspired, so that has some pretty good parts too. On this armory for Shadow Dragon, the chausses or leg plates are from the Steppenwolf inspired style, Apocalyptian General. And that is another set that has a lot of usable parts. And on the flip side of that, the hero side had a Barda inspired style called Furious, so that is now unlockable on the villains. But other than that, let's see, Alyssa and Takis are my two most style complete characters, so I kind of checked out their menus to see what actually unlocked. So those are the two main sets that were unlocked cross-faction as drops. There are other drop styles that unlocked, but they're not cross-faction. So if you think back to it, there are like the runic styles from tier 4. So that's kind of a good one to go through your alts and look through, because sometimes you collected like maybe 4 parts on one character and then a different 4 on a different character, because I think there were like 4 different runic sets that dropped in. It was Hand of Fate, which was 2 raids and 2 alerts. And we didn't have loot pickers back then, so a lot of that relied on RNG. So I imagine some of my characters have some parts and others don't have others. So yeah, we were looking for runes of the Ancients, East, Norsemen. There's also like demonic runes. So I would say that's one of the highlights. There are also the runic weapons, which again, back when tier 4 was the the current tier, those weapons were really hard to get because you had to like roll the right one. And remember, there were no weapon boxes back then. So we're talking about like Arcane Claymore. That's one of the examples. Now some of the drops are expensive though. They're a little bit higher, 35. I mean that's not too bad when you think about how rare these are. Like this example here, the Crystal Hook, that was only a healer weapon. So things that weren't for your role and were drops are now unlocked. Gemmed Scepter is another one. And some are cheaper than others. Roman Stinger was another one. And initially I thought this wasn't like roll lock, but this is only a healer style. And it was a rare drop from like T1 alerts. So I actually only have this on one character. I tried to get it on several others and it just never dropped. So definitely check out your weapons menu after this update. So that covers styles. The other known thing was the third artifact slot, because the week before they did a double experience event, and then they mentioned as a pro tip that Game Update 86 would add a third artifact slot. So that's what it is here. So for those of you who don't have a third one ready, just pull one from your other roll. Chances are it will help in some way. And if you looked at the forums, a lot of people kind of panicked about this third artifact slot, thinking that they needed to quickly level one up to slot in. But like if you really think about it, there's no rush on these. It's better to have 3 of them at level 80 than like, you know, maxing them out one by one, because they start to get the buff at level 80, whether it's an individual or a group buff. That's like when the first level kicks in. So prioritize getting them to 80, and 80 is not that bad. It starts to slow down like after 100 really. And related to this, they also updated Constantine in the Watchtower or Hall of Doom, and we're going to take a look at that right now.
In the hood.
Alright, so we're over at Constantine right now, and this is one of the things that came as a surprise. So when we saw the notes, they mentioned that the older artifacts dropped in price from 100 to 25 marks. I mean, that's a big deal, because 100 is like, you know, that was like the old cap, so that would be like half of your marks if you're maxed out now. And 25 is like next to nothing. Like you could probably get that in a day just from dailies. So this is a big deal, and it kind of makes sense, because they want to make it easier for you to at least start that third one. Now this is not every artifact. I believe it just doesn't have the capsule ones, but it has all the ones from before. And oh, it's not showing the ones that I already have on this character. But basically you have the first generation one, which is Tetrahedron of Urgon was one of them. The first generation ones are important, like the ones that came from the initial Catalyst quest, because these have like a basic group buff. So you wanna have like one of those slotted in if possible. Because I think most of the ones after that are like individual buffs. So like maybe put 2 that have individual and 1 that has group. Or like if you had like a solo armory and then 1 for a group content. There are just a lot of possibilities now. Parasite's Power Harness was in the first generation. I think Wings of Azar was also. Starheart Fragment, yeah, that was also first generation for healer. I'm probably getting these mixed up. But basically, it's that first set. The second set was like the anniversary ones, and then Omegahedron is also thrown in here, which I think is a little bit odd, because everyone got that from the Doomsday Pointer mission, already awards that. But that is included on the list, in case, I guess. I guess there's a chance that you powered it up and you consumed it with another artifact, so yeah, it is possible to lose these and then you'd have to rebuy it. So definitely a lot of choices to make. So you also want to evaluate your playstyle while you're picking your artifacts, because you don't want to like pick one that never triggers. And I'm just going to show you a quick example on how to test these. You can use the rolls as a guideline, because like obviously if you're a tank you're not going to pick a troller one. Although I'm sure there's some cases where a power like off roll will trigger like an artifact meant for a different role. It's possible. Because nearly every power has like some kind of pull, so that might trigger the tank one. But I'm not exactly sure, because not all of them are consistent either. Like I've noticed the group heal one doesn't actually trigger on all group heals, which could be a bug. But you want to look at your quick menu and then the current effects. So if I just do like a basic combo, something I would normally do, and then I take a look at the effects. Cog of Mageddon is for weapon combos. Distill Refractor is for countering. So the lunge moves I did counted as a counter. The pull does trigger, but it might not be doing it on sparring targets. Oh wait, sorry, no. The Distill Refractor is the pull. The one that's not showing here is the counter, because I can't counter a dummy. But if I do it on actual NPCs, all three of these are going to trigger. So if you're picking your artifacts, you want to pick the three that trigger the most. So like if you're constantly comboing into a pull, you want that in there. If you're comboing into a group heal, you definitely want that in there. Troller, like if you're comboing into a debuff, you want to get that in there. If you're hybrid, you could put like the weapon and power one in there, and you'd be triggering that all the time. So yeah, definitely keep that in mind, and also keep in mind individual buff versus group buff. So I think out of the ones I have, Cog of Mageddon is the group. Oh, actually all of these do also affect the group. Okay, so that does it for artifacts. Then we've got some quality of life stuff. So if you're on the Fortify menu now, and you pick an Augment. Oh crap, I don't think I can show this actually. Okay, so I'm at a bottleneck for all of these, but supposedly if you pick one of these, an Augment can consume another Augment. Now that still is the case, because we're going to need to do that for the next episode. But previously, these were like mixed in with other reagents, so that you could easily do that by mistake. Now they're grouped differently, but unfortunately I can't show that because I'm out of catalysts on all of them. Let's see what else. And okay, it'll also give you a warning if you pick one. So there will be an extra prompt to go through. And then the rest are bug fixes. They did something with like the digits of your money, 9 digits on all platforms. So I didn't even know about that before, but it's I guess the money you have is capped at 999,999,999. I always thought people were in the billions on that, actually. But or actually, that's just the sale prices. That's not actually capping your money. So you can't sell anything for $1 billion or over, which I'm sure people were doing anyway. Okay, so there was an issue with amplified heat vision in armories, and I think the fix for that probably gave the armory bug that happened happened for a day until they repatched it. Let's see, bug fixes with content. There was some issue with Turf War currency. Wayne Manor Gala is cross-faction. Okay, the other big surprise is the event stuff. So as you know, the current DLC will have event versions of all the on-duty stuff, and they previously only awarded the DLC currency, but now these are also going to award you marks. So if you look at the description, it'll give you marks of victory if you're like before the actual CR for the real content. So level 10 to 229, because Titan starts at 230. So if you're 230, you're going to get marks for the real content, marks plus the DLC currency. And if you're below that, you're going to get marks for the event stuff. So this is a big deal because it's going to affect leveling up the tiers a lot. Because now you have all of these as daily. Well, the smaller content ones as daily, and then the raids as weekly. Let me see, it's actually, yep, it's counting daily and weekly correctly. So if you think about like the on-duty for the DLC, the event on-duty stuff, combined with the evergreen Doomsday stuff that's kind of mixed in here. And remember that the Doomsday content includes the open world. The DLC stuff does not. So you do want to factor in both of these pieces of content as you level up. If you have a lot of time, you can just do everything. If you're short on time, you want to do the things that are faster. And in most cases, that's going to be the Doomsday stuff. That seems to be probably the most efficient open world as far as marks and solo content, really. The only thing that's more efficient than that is the Central City stuff at Tier 3. So now more than ever, it's possible for a free player to level up and gear up even. Because in theory, this content drops gear that's, I believe, 1 DLC back. The event stuff is, I think, it's always going to be 1 DLC back. So I guess in theory, you can get up to 218, I'm thinking. I mean, it still takes a while because you're going to be scaling up through the various tiers. Whereas, like, if you were a member and you owned all of this content, levels 1 through, I think, mid-7 had the non-scaling gear, which would actually jump you higher per piece. But yeah, that's a game changer because it's going to speed up tiers 1 through 8 significantly. And it widens the opportunity for non-members, even if you don't own any DLCs. Because now you're always going to have the recent one, and you're always going to have Doomsday. And then after that, the rest of it is just some bug fixes with the Titans content. But yeah, I was surprised by all of this because I was only expecting style unlocking, and I wasn't even expecting weapons. Like I probably just read it fast and didn't realize weapons were part of it until I got my menu. Third artifact slot is a big deal because it's going to make your character a lot stronger. Like I think the content is somewhat scaled to 2 artifacts because they did mention they buffed the content a couple of updates ago. And that was when we had 2 artifacts. They buffed it 2 artifacts in general, so I'm just assuming that means 2 artifacts. So the third one is kind of a bonus. I mean, the fact that artifacts is required is kind of a pay-to-win aspect, but it's a little bit better with the third one being a bonus. Doesn't get rid of the pay-to-win part, though. And yeah, the other big deal, marks of victory. So this is a pretty good update for one that doesn't include any content. Very big quality of life, and it changes the game a lot. Okay, so yeah, let me know what 3 artifacts you're choosing for your character and what role your character is, because there are a lot of possibilities, a lot of playstyles out there. Alright, hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.